You say you want wealth, but you've ignored the source. You speak of success, but do not open the book where power begins. You chase techniques, attend seminars, collect quotes, but you have overlooked the truth that built the minds of every great man I ever studied. You have walked past the one place where eternal law is recorded without error. You have looked everywhere for a secret that was always in front of you. A verse, one verse, short in words, vast in power, hidden not because it is lost, but because men no longer look where the truth still lives. It is not found in the philosophies of the drifting masses. It is not recited by the loud voices of modern noise. It is not adorned with entertainment or coated in convenience. It is written in the old book, the only book that holds the blueprint of dominion. And what I'm about to tell you, they do not want you to see. For the man who sees it becomes ungovernable by fear, unshaken by failure, untouched by lack. The man who sees it becomes mentally sovereign, spiritually directed, materially unstoppable. There is a verse in Scripture so powerful, so exact, so eternal, that if understood, truly understood, could rebuild your fortune, renew your mind, and free your soul from every lie of mediocrity that ever touched you. I will not give you that verse yet. Because if I handed it to you as one more quote among many, you would do what most men do, nod, admire, and forget. But if you listen, if you follow me, if you stay through every word of this speech, you will not just read the verse, you will become it. When I walked with Carnegie, when I studied the minds of Edison, Ford, Rockefeller, Schwab, and Hill, I came to see that the most successful men were spiritual men, not in dress, not in ceremony, but in principle. Their minds were governed by invisible law. Their actions were born of a belief that they were not puppets of fate, but sons of law, masters of themselves. And behind every one of them, whether they could name it or not, was this verse. Whether they knew its chapter or its book, their lives echoed its reality. They obeyed it in practice, even if they never recited it aloud, and that's why they rose. I am not here to entertain you. I am not here to comfort you. I am here to reveal what the world hides. I am here to point your eyes back to the truth that formed the foundation of every great life, and to tell you that you are not exempt. If your life is in chaos, it is because you have violated law. If your finances are lacking, it is because your thoughts are disordered. If your heart is heavy, your spirit anxious, your days filled with fear, it is because you have wandered from the word where order, peace, and dominion were written in stone. But the good news is this: the word has not left you. The law has not changed. The door has not shut. What built empires can still build you. What shaped kings can still shape you. What guided the steps of wealth can still guide your next one, if you will listen. I spent a lifetime studying success. I watched men rise from poverty to power. I watched boys become builders of industries. I watched minds unlock riches because they obeyed spiritual law, even when they did not call it by name. And every time I traced it back, not to technique, not to trend, not to ambition, but to one truth, one eternal truth, buried in one verse. And if you want it, if you want to know what they don't want you to know, you must stay. Stay for every part. Study this as if your freedom depends on it, because it does. Stay until the very end, and you will be handed not just a line of scripture, but the operating system of wealth, peace, purpose, and power. Let me say this before we begin. This is not for the casual man. This is not for the drifter. This is not for the man who listens once and forgets. This is for the man who writes, who applies, who moves. This is for the builder, the seeker, the one who is done playing with shallow thought. You are standing at the edge of a new world, but that world will not be handed to you. It must be spoken into existence. It must be commanded through law, and the law must be understood in full. The verse is coming, the truth is near, but only for those who stay until the end. Before we continue, say these words aloud, not softly, not lazily, but as a declaration of alignment. Truth is eternal. I build on law. My success is rooted in spiritual order. Again, truth is eternal. I build on law. My success is rooted in spiritual order. Let these words cleanse your doubt. Let them sharpen your mind. Let them call your soul into alignment. For the truth you are about to hear is not suggestion. It is structure. It is law. And once you see it, you will never again ask for permission to prosper. Let us begin. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That is the verse they never wanted you to see. Not because it is hidden, but because if you ever believed it, truly believed it, you would become free. Free from fear, free from excuses, free from dependence on anything except the command center of your own thought. This verse is not merely poetic. It is not symbolic. It is the blueprint of man's dominion. It tells you plainly, you are not made by what happens to you. You are not shaped by the world. You are shaped by the thoughts you allow to dwell within you, especially those you repeat, especially those you feel, especially those you entertain in silence. You may appear to the world as a poor man, but if you think prosperity, you are rich already. You may hold no title, but if you think dominion, you carry the spirit of leadership. You may have fallen many times, but if you think victory, you are already rising. Everything you are right now, every dollar you hold, every opportunity you possess, every emotion that governs your day was first born in your thought. You are walking through a reality that your mind permitted, a world built by belief or broken by neglect. Every law of success I have ever taught begins here. Desire begins as thought. Faith begins as thought. Persistence begins as thought. Decision begins as thought. You cannot act until you first think. You cannot command until you first believe. You cannot build a life until you first build the idea of it in your own mind. The verse does not say, as a man feels. It does not say, as a man hopes. It does not even say, as a man tries. It says, thinketh. That is where the foundation lies. Not in emotion, not in chance, not in vague ambition, but in repeated intentional thought, held long enough to define the man himself. Every man of greatness I have studied obeyed this verse, whether he could name it or not. They built their identity first in thought and then made the world conform to it. Abraham Lincoln thought liberty. He read it in his youth. He imagined it during obscurity. He meditated on it through defeat. And when he finally spoke it, it changed a nation. Before he freed any man, he freed the thought of freedom in himself. Henry Ford thought motion. Before the Model T, before the assembly line, before the name meant anything, he thought of a world where every man could move freely. He was laughed at, opposed, and ridiculed. But because he kept the thought, the world eventually yielded. What you are is not your job, not your balance, not your past. What you are is what you think, habitually. A single thought held once will pass, but a thought held daily becomes a belief, and a belief held long enough becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Do you rise every morning thinking of your fortune? Or do you rehearse your failures? Do you think like a man who will be obeyed by money or chased by it? Do you think thoughts of order, wealth, clarity, decision? Or do you recycle fear, lack, shame, and confusion? Let me say it again. You are what you think. If you want to change your life, do not begin with your surroundings. Begin with your inner speech. The conversation you repeat inside your heart becomes the life you see with your eyes. Your subconscious mind, which obeys every command without question, cannot reject your dominant thoughts. It accepts what is repeated and emotionalized. And once it accepts it, it begins to work through unseen forces to make it real. This is not theory. This is law. A man may say, I want to be rich. But if he thinks constantly of bills, of failure, of risk, of loss, then he is not rich in heart. He has not planted wealth. He has planted fear. And the harvest will match the seed without fail. This verse, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, is the very seed of all creation. It is the Scripture's clearest explanation of manifestation. It tells you what you meditate on will become your reflection. Therefore, your first responsibility is not to hustle, not to shout, not even to move. It is to discipline your thought life. Before you can build a business, you must build the belief. Before you can lead others, you must think of yourself as a leader. Before you can attract riches, you must think like a man who expects them. If you think like the poor, you may inherit a fortune and lose it. If you think like the rich, you may begin in poverty and still rise. Because conditions are temporary, but thought is creative power. Your mind is a field. Every thought is a seed. You may not see the result instantly, but over time, the field will bear exactly what you have planted. If you want to know what you've been thinking, look at your life. If the crop is disappointing, change the seed. The first act of the rich man is not to make money. It is to think wealth, to hold it in the imagination, to speak of it as certain, to expect it as law. Until this is true, no effort will prosper. And so I ask you, what are you thinking and what are you becoming as a result? Say this now. Say it aloud, not quietly, not casually, but as a man who commands his future. I become what I think. I plant my future in the thoughts I choose today. Again, I become what I think. I plant my future in the thoughts I choose today. Let these words begin your reformation. Let them become your defense against idle thoughts. Let them cleanse your mind of the lies of weakness. Let them set a new pattern. From this day forward, you must watch your thoughts like a banker watches his vault. Let no thief enter. Let no seed of failure take root. Let no fear grow long enough to bear fruit. You are not bound to your circumstances. You are not doomed by your history. You are not shaped by external hands. You are shaped by your thoughts, and they belong to you alone. Now take up the power. Take up the truth. Take up the verse that rules all others. Hold it. Repeat it. Build upon it. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Let us continue. Thought alone is not enough. A thought unaccompanied by belief is a vapor. It rises and vanishes. But a thought saturated with faith, that is fire. That is creation. That is how invisible becomes visible. An idea becomes empire. You may think success, but if you do not believe the thought, if you do not wrap it in conviction, in certainty, in emotional heat, it will never take form. It will remain a ghost, haunting your imagination, but never building your life. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But what is the heart? It is not the casual mind. It is not passing interest. It is the seat of belief. The emotionalized subconscious, where thoughts are no longer visitors, they are residents. Thought opens the gate. Faith gives the command. Faith is the force that tells the subconscious, this is not a wish, this is law. This is not someday, this is mine. And the subconscious, which always obeys belief, begins to shape the world to match the decree. Let me be clear. You do not receive what you think. You receive what you believe. Your results do not come from words alone. They come from the emotional vibration behind the words, the tone of certainty, the mental posture that does not ask, it commands. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. That is not poetry. That is instruction. That is God's law of manifestation. If the thing is not yet visible, but you believe it with intensity, it begins to move toward you. Let me give you examples. Charles M. Schwab was not born into power, but he believed in his power before the world did. He saw himself at the helm of industry while still sweeping the floors. His tone, his walk, his speech carried the vibration of leadership. And the world, which bends to belief, responded. Carnegie entrusted him with leadership not because of age or resume, but because his belief in himself was contagious. He carried the weight of purpose before the position was ever assigned. That is how belief draws responsibility. That is how faith creates authority. Now consider Edison. He believed in electric light before the science caught up. He failed thousands of times. not because his ideas were weak, but because his faith never cracked. He held the result in his mind long enough for the conditions to surrender. Understand this. Faith held longer than fear becomes reality. If your faith wavers, your fortune wavers. If your belief shakes, your results scatter. But if you believe like Schwab, like Edison, like Ford, like Lincoln, your world must match what you carry inside. So how do you build that kind of belief? The same way a tree grows: daily nourishment, daily repetition, daily contact with truth. This is the power of autosuggestion. You train your subconscious through repeated, emotionalized affirmations of your definite purpose. When you speak your aim aloud, morning and night, you are not just talking. You are giving instruction to the very mechanism that builds your life. And the more emotion you add, the deeper it takes root. This is not superstition. This is spiritual engineering. Thought is blueprint. Faith is construction. Autosuggestion is the labor crew that works while you sleep, bringing form to the structure you have declared. You must speak your faith before you see results. If you wait for evidence, you are not operating in faith. You are reacting to circumstance. The rich do not wait for proof. They create it through belief. Faith does not require external permission. It does not ask, "Is this realistic?" It declares, "This is mine, and I accept it now." And life, by law, begins arranging itself to obey. But beware, faith must not be occasional. It must be persistent. It must be cultivated like a fire that is never left to die. One missed day, one weak confession, one hesitant step. These are cracks where fear enters. Faith is built by ritual. Faith is secured by discipline. You must not leave it to chance. You must train it into your system until you walk in it, speak in it, breathe in it. Say this now: I believe the truth I speak. My faith gives power to my thoughts. Say it again, not as a chant, as a law, as a builder laying foundation stone. I believe the truth I speak. My faith gives power to my thoughts. Let these words become your spiritual constitution. Let them govern your language. Let them correct your inner dialogue when fear tries to rise. You are not required to know how it will happen. You are only required to believe it will. Faith handles the mechanics. You supply the certainty. This is how the world is changed. This is how fortunes are formed. This is how average men are raised into excellence, not by sight, but by faith. From this moment forward, monitor your tone. Speak with force. Do not say, "I hope to succeed." Say, "I will succeed," because I already believe it. Do not say, "I want wealth." Say, "Wealth is mine by spiritual law, and I receive it now." The subconscious accepts what is declared with emotion. It does not question. It does not filter. It simply obeys what is repeated with belief. And once it accepts, it goes to work. It moves people. It shifts circumstance. It draws resources. It opens doors. It creates events. You may not see how, but it will make the way plain. This is how the rich live before they are rich. This is how they act with certainty before success appears. This is how they draw power to themselves. They believe first, and reality follows. And you must do the same. Now rise. Pick up your written statement. Read it aloud today. Read it again tonight. Read it with emotion. Read it until your voice sounds like a man of faith, a man of command, a man of destiny. Repeat these final affirmations. I believe the truth I speak. My faith gives power to my thoughts. What I believe, I will see. My mind is a builder. My words are orders. My faith is the engine. Let us continue. Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. These are not soft words. They are not symbolic. They are not meant for poetic pondering. They are law, unchanging, non-negotiable, eternal. And no man who violates this law shall prosper, just as no man who honors it can be denied. Every thought is a seed. Every sentence you speak, every emotion you repeat, every image you entertain in your mind is a seed dropped into the soil of your future. You may not see its fruit tomorrow, you may not see it next month, but you will see it. The universe does not forget what you plant. It does not misplace your thoughts. It does not skip over careless words. It returns your thoughts in kind. Fear planted grows fear. Doubt planted grows delay. Boldness planted grows opportunity. Repetition multiplies it. This law cannot be bribed. It cannot be tricked. It cannot be circumvented by shortcuts, excuses, or charm. You may climb high through deceit, but if you have planted pride, corruption, and fear, the fall is already scheduled. The law is blind to appearance, but loyal to substance. You may envy the man who rises fast, but observe long enough and the harvest of his inner world will come. If he planted truth, he will thrive. If he planted vanity, he will fall. Time reveals the roots of every man. The greatest fortunes ever created began with a consistent planting of thoughts, decisions, and disciplines. The greatest ruins always began with neglect, fear, and foolish seed. John D. Rockefeller did not build Standard Oil by accident. He did not win because he was lucky. He was not favored by chance. He was intentional in seed, relentless in order, and disciplined in thought. He planted value. He received value. He planted scale. He received empire. He planted stability. He received legacy. His life was a series of deliberate plantings. His mind was organized farmland, and his harvest matched the care of his cultivation. Most men sow without knowing. They toss seeds carelessly in every direction. A little envy here, a little fear there, a little laziness when no one is watching. Then they cry out when the weeds of poverty overtake their life. But the harvest only follows the hand. You are harvesting today what you planted yesterday. That is not meant to shame you. It is meant to awaken you. If you do not like the fruit, change the seed. If you do not like the environment, change the thought that built it. You must now begin to audit your seed. Every belief you hold, every sentence you repeat, every fear you entertain, every excuse you protect, every delay you justify, these are seeds. You must no longer say, I can't afford that. You must no longer say, that's not possible for someone like me. You must no longer say, that's just my luck. These are curses you speak over your own harvest. If you want wealth, you must plant it. Not just in bank accounts, but in mind, word, and daily movement. You must think wealth when no one sees. Speak it when no one agrees. Build it when no one claps. Every morning is soil. Every evening is reflection. Every thought is a seed. Every word is a decree. Every action is a planting. And the man who understands this becomes the master of his own field. Let the lazy mock this law. Let the drifting man call it superstition, but they will reap a life of confusion and say it was fate. It was never fate. It was farming. Now ask yourself, what have I planted today? What am I watering with repetition? What am I feeding with imagination? What will grow from what I allow to live in my mind? Do not pretend ignorance. You know what you're sowing. If you've been careless, decide now. Pull the weeds, burn the field, and plant again with thought, faith, and fire. If you want a new life, you must plant a new harvest. And if you want that harvest to come in full, you must plant daily. Discipline is the hand that never forgets to sow. Say this aloud. I sow wealth daily. My harvest is guaranteed because I plant with intention. Again, I sow wealth daily. My harvest is guaranteed because I plant with intention. These are not affirmations. These are the voices of your next season. Speak them as a farmer speaks of rain, with reverence, with urgency, with unshakable expectation. There is no such thing as an idle day. There is no neutral ground. If you are not planting with purpose, weeds are growing by default. The field does not wait for your decision. It responds to what is active. If you skip your morning thought, the weeds speak for you. If you neglect your spoken aim, the fears whisper louder. If you walk through the day without attention, the harvest becomes accidental. And accidental harvests never bless the man. Plant only what you want multiplied. Think only what you want repeated. Speak only what you want returned. Act only in ways that water your destiny. This law governs empires and individuals. It is the reason some rise and others remain. It does not care where you begin. It only cares what you do with the field you've been given. You have been given today, this moment, this mind, this soil, and it is waiting for your command. Do not end this day without sowing something. Do not sleep tonight without naming the thought you wish to multiply. Do not walk through life casting shadows when you could be casting seed. The law is watching. The ground is listening. And the man who plants with purpose owns the future. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That single verse contains the origin of all identity. Not as he wants to be, not as he hopes to be, not as others say he should be, but as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. The heart is not the organ that pumps blood. It is the inner self. It is belief. It is identity. It is the subconscious reality you carry beneath your words, beneath your posture, beneath your memory. It is the man you are when no one watches. No man receives wealth before he becomes the kind of man who can hold it. The riches never arrive before the identity. Even if they do, they vanish, because the man still holding the identity of lack will sabotage what doesn't match his inner frame. This is why lottery winners lose their fortunes. This is why sudden success destroys the unprepared, because you cannot keep what your identity cannot carry. Riches are not attracted to desperation. They are attracted to congruence. They come to the man whose thoughts, words, rituals, posture, and attitude match the life he says he desires. If you think in your heart as a beggar, no amount of outer striving will change your destiny. If you see yourself in secret as a failure, the world will eventually confirm it. You are never betrayed by life. You are only matched. So I say to you, you must become before you receive. You must walk in the identity of the man you are becoming before he ever appears in your bank account, your mirror, your network, or your reputation. This is not pretense. This is alignment. This is how the laws of the universe detect seriousness. You think as the man, so you become the man. And once you become the man, you receive what belongs to him. The identity must precede the evidence. It is not the money that makes the man. It is the man that makes the money. The world sees the harvest, but heaven sees the seed. And the seed is always planted in your inner concept of self. I ask you, what do you really think about yourself when no one's around? Do you feel equal to the fortune you claim to desire? Or do you still walk with hidden inferiority? Do you repeat statements of power in public only to whisper doubt to yourself in private? Do you speak of success and still carry the language of failure in your inner conversation? The truth is, you cannot rise above your self-image. You may temporarily fight your way forward. But if your identity is still that of the man who fails, who doubts, who apologizes for his greatness, you will find a way to return to the version of life that matches the man you believe yourself to be. This is why you must build identity like a fortress. It is the foundation beneath all wealth, all purpose, all confidence. No man has built empires on self-contempt. No man has led others while seeing himself as unworthy. No man has risen with a broken picture of his own worth. I remember the story of Edwin C. Barnes, the man who entered the mind of Edison long before he entered his business. He was not a man of credentials. He was not a man of fortune. But he saw himself as equal to the opportunity he desired. He believed, not in vague theory, but in certainty, that he would become Edison's partner. He did not hope. He did not beg. He did not drift into a job. He declared the partnership in his heart and walked forward with that decision written on his spirit. He worked menial tasks, but in his heart he was a builder. He swept floors, but in his identity he stood at the helm of enterprise. And eventually, reality caught up with his belief. The question is never, when will success come to me? The question is, when will I become the man who no longer needs to ask? That is the moment heaven responds. That is the day things shift. That is when the laws recognize you as an equal to the outcome you seek. So how do you build identity? You do it with ritual, with language, with discipline, and with repetition. You write your definite chief aim not just to inspire yourself, but to form yourself. You are not reading a future. You are writing a character. You must speak wealth aloud, not because it is already seen, but because your subconscious needs to hear it until it no longer questions it. You must speak confidence. You must speak mastery. You must speak vision. And you must speak it more often than you speak doubt. The mind is a mirror that reflects what it is most often shown. If you feed it thoughts of failure, weakness, lack, and worry, it will show you a man who lives that way. But if you show it power, purpose, belief, and forward movement, it will begin to accept this as the new image, and once it accepts it, it becomes automatic. You must also remove contradiction. You cannot say one thing and believe another. You cannot act one way in the morning and reverse course at night. The subconscious does not trust instability. It rewards clarity. It rewards congruence. You must be a man of one signal. Do not speak poverty and expect wealth. Do not carry guilt and expect favor. Do not walk in fear and expect the world to respond with opportunity. You must decide, and your decision must show up in your thought, speech, posture, and habits. This is your greatest responsibility, to craft the identity of the man who is already what he once hoped to become, to treat yourself according to your future, not your past, to act like the architect of your fortune, not the recipient of others' permission. Say this now. I walk in the identity of success. My thoughts match the man I am becoming. Again, I walk in the identity of success. My thoughts match the man I am becoming. These are not wishes. They are blueprints. Each word you speak is a stone. Each belief you accept is a beam. You are building a house, and you will live in whatever structure you construct inside your mind. Every great man I studied had this trait. They did not waver between two selves. They did not drift between humility and greatness. They decided who they were, and they refused to act like anything less. You must do the same. Walk like the man, speak like the man, think like the man, spend like the man, work like the man, pray like the man, move like the man, until the world no longer sees your effort, but sees only your identity. You must become so rooted in who you are becoming that the present cannot convince you otherwise. And once the world believes what you have long believed in secret, the riches will appear, not as reward, but as reflection. Imagination is God's gift to the builder. It is the bridge between the spiritual and the material, the unseen and the seen, the invisible idea and the tangible reality. As it is written, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. But what is the heart? The heart is imagination on fire with belief. It is not the passing thought. It is the picture held within, repeated, nourished, and lived in long before the world sees it. The heart does not operate by logic. It operates by vision. And vision is built through imagination. When a man says, I see it, he does not mean with the eye. He means with the soul. The world was not made by hands. It was made by imagination. The hands only followed the vision. The bricks only followed the blueprint. The business, the wealth, the reputation, all were drawn first in the mind of the man bold enough to hold the image until it became real. Faith without imagination is blind. It is empty repetition. It is lifeless creed. But when faith enters the imagination, it becomes creative force. It breathes life into possibility. It transforms aimless hope into structured expectation. Imagination is the womb of creation. Faith is the breath within it. Every empire I have studied, every fortune I have dissected, every name etched into history began first in imagination. It was a picture seen only by one man, a picture so real to him, so vivid, so emotionally charged, that he walked in it before he touched it. He rehearsed it before it arrived. He saw it while others doubted. And because he refused to release the image, life obeyed it. Poor men also use imagination, but they use it against themselves. They picture the bills arriving. They see the employer saying no. They imagine the business failing. They walk through the scenario where they are rejected, laughed at, betrayed, and their imagination, being neutral, responds. It gives them what they see. You cannot escape your imagination. You can only direct it. You are either building with it or being buried by it. Most men imagine unconsciously. They do not choose their images. They react to their fears. And so they live out what they did not want because they never replaced what they were afraid of with what they commanded. A man who desires wealth but spends his day imagining struggle is not in conflict. He is in agreement with poverty. His mouth may say, "I believe in abundance," but his imagination is rehearsing lack. And the subconscious mind, which obeys image over intellect, responds to the picture, not the speech. This is why Scripture speaks so often of vision. Without vision, the people perish. Without image, the spirit dies. Without mental picture, the body wanders. But where there is vision, there is energy, focus, direction. There is power. There is dominion. There is magnetic force that pulls the thing imagined into the life of the one who dares to hold it long enough. Let me give you a name, Andrew Carnegie. Before he ever held steel, before he ever laid track, before his name meant anything beyond a clerk's desk, he imagined a nation built on metal. He saw bridges, he saw rails, he saw cities. He imagined them so vividly that he felt responsible to bring them forth. He walked with the image of construction. He spoke as a man who would one day direct the building of an empire. His eyes were fixed, not on current wages, but on future structure. And that structure, first drawn in the mind, became one of the greatest enterprises the world has ever known. The rail did not come before the image. The wealth did not come before the vision. The factories did not appear before the blueprint. He imagined it daily with faith, and the image began to take form. This is how you must now live. You must see it before the world shows it. You must walk in the scene you desire before the bricks are laid. You must learn to hold the picture until the world submits. Let me now give you 3 imagination exercises. These are not games. These are the disciplines of builders. 1. See the result. Each morning and night, close your eyes and imagine your goal as already completed. Not in the future, but now. Walk into the room, feel the fabric, hear the voices, look at the balance, see the contract signed, experience the result in full color and emotion. 2. Walk through the outcome. Mentally rehearse your actions, the call you will make, the speech you will give, the meeting you will lead, the decision you will deliver. Walk through it in detail. This is how champions win before the arena appears. 3. Rehearse victory. Replay wins you have already experienced. See the moment you succeeded, the time you overcame, the deal you closed, the test you passed. Imagination does not only build the future, it cements the confidence of the past. Each of these must be repeated until they become second nature. Until your mind, when left alone, defaults to the image you have trained into it. Your goal is not to feel motivated. Your goal is to imagine until the picture becomes home. Say this now. I imagine only what I command. My mind is the instrument of creation. Again, I imagine only what I command. My mind is the instrument of creation. Let these affirmations govern your attention. Let them guide what you allow into your sight, your ears, your conversation. Every distraction is an enemy of the image. Every fear is a challenger to the vision. You must protect your imagination like a treasure chest. And when the world laughs at your pictures, do not shrink. When they ask, where is your evidence? Point to your mind and say, here is my foundation. Here is my structure. Here is my evidence. And the world will see it soon. You are not building with tools. You are building with thought. with faith, with imagination. You are collaborating with God when you imagine with clarity. You are obeying the highest laws when you live from vision instead of memory. The men who made history did not do so by reacting. They created. And all creation began in imagination. Now lift your eyes, picture what you desire, and hold it. Speak it, walk through it, return to it day and night, until it becomes the most natural place your mind knows. You were made in the image of a creator. That means you were made to create. Let us continue. Fear is the only enemy of divine law. It is the only voice that can interrupt the power of right thinking, the only force that can poison the harvest of truth. As you think, so are you. But when fear enters your thought, you become what fear imagines, not what faith has promised. Fear is not a condition. It is a choice to believe in something outside of spiritual order. The Word says clearly, God hath not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. If fear was not given by God, then it was planted by the world. It was not born of truth. It was learned through repetition. It was passed down like poverty. It was trained into men by other men who had forgotten who they were. Fear is not your nature. Fear is not your inheritance. Fear is the only thing separating you from the life already promised to you by law. It does not need to be reasoned with. It needs to be removed, cut off, cast out, rejected like the lie that it is. Fear is anti-law. Fear is anti-truth. Fear is anti-creation. It says, what if it doesn't work? While truth says, it already is. It says, be careful, when law says, be faithful. It says, wait and see, while law says, decide and act. Every man who remains small, who remains poor, who remains stuck in cycles, does so not because of lack, but because of fear. And fear always comes in disguise. It wears the mask of wisdom. It poses as caution. It imitates planning. But it is always delay in disguise. You can trace every failure back to a moment when fear spoke louder than purpose, when the man who once believed hesitated, when the man who once moved with fire stopped to ask permission from someone who had never walked where he was going. Most men do not serve truth. They serve fear, with more faith, more repetition, more obedience than they give to their goals. They speak the language of fear fluently. What if I fail? What if I lose it? What if they judge me? What if I'm not ready? These are fear's commandments, and most men obey without question. Let me tell you, you can either serve fear or serve your calling, but not both. The mind cannot hold two masters. If you give your thought to fear, your energy will follow. And once energy leaves purpose, your results collapse. You cannot rise while bowing to the voice of loss. Fear pollutes thought. It corrupts desire. It causes the mind to drift. It blocks the subconscious from receiving the command of your goal. It breaks the bridge between faith and creation. It turns bold men into silent watchers. And worst of all, fear delays harvest. The seed may be good, the goal may be written, the plan may be strong, but when fear enters, you stop watering, you stop moving, and the season passes, the opportunity closes. The window that was once open begins to seal. Understand this, fear is not passive, it is an active force, it is not neutral. It is poison. It is spiritual disobedience. Every time you allow fear to dwell in your thought, you break alignment with divine law. And the law does not honor divided minds. So what must you do? You must replace fear, not with more analysis, but with decision. Fear dies when decision enters, because fear thrives on hesitation. But decision silences the noise. It declares, this is the way. I walk in it. You must replace fear with movement. Even a small action taken in purpose weakens fear's hold. Fear says, don't take the call. Movement says, call now. Fear says, wait another day. Movement says, start now. You must replace fear with definite purpose. The man who is locked onto his definite chief aim cannot be shaken by passing voices. His eye is on the mountaintop. His feet move even when the fog covers the path. He is not fearless. He is faithful to something bigger than fear. I must tell you, fear does not disappear because you want it to. It disappears because you outgrow it, because you stop feeding it, because you begin feeding your faith more than you feed your past, because you stop rehearsing weakness and start declaring victory. Say this aloud: I reject fear. I walk in law. My thoughts carry no permission for doubt. Again, I reject fear. I walk in law. My thoughts carry no permission for doubt. These are not suggestions. These are eviction orders. You are no longer entertaining fear. You are commanding your thought into order. You are speaking to your soul with authority. You are reminding the law who is in charge. Do not delay. Do not debate fear. Speak against it. Move through it. Decide without asking. Write your goal again. Read it aloud. Take the step you've been delaying. That is how fear dies. Not in contemplation, but in conquest. You must now become the man who is too focused to fear, too purposeful to hesitate, too rooted in truth to drift. You must become the man who hears fear but obeys law. Because when you walk in spiritual law, fear cannot follow you. The moment you act in obedience to your higher calling, the chains begin to break. The confusion begins to clear, and the voice of fear gets quieter every day. You were not given fear by God, therefore you do not owe it your loyalty. You were given power. You were given love. You were given a sound mind. Use them. Stand up and move forward. Repetition is the hand that sculpts the soul. It is the chisel that shapes identity, the rhythm that forms belief, the fire that burns away hesitation. One thought is not enough. One decision, one affirmation, one inspired moment, that is not transformation. To think is not enough. You must rethink. You must rehearse. You must repeat until the thought is no longer an idea, but your reality. The subconscious mind, which governs your habits, your responses, your energy, your speech, your posture, your outcomes, does not change by accident. It changes only through sustained instruction. And the language it obeys is repetition, not logic, not emotion, not inspiration, repetition. This is why you can know the truth and still live in bondage. You can read every principle, quote every law, speak every verse, and still see no fruit. Because until the subconscious has been impressed, until the repetition has taken root, you are only a man carrying theory. You are not yet carrying power. Let me say it clearly. The man who repeats wins. The man who repeats with emotion, with belief, with structure, he becomes the man others admire, others follow, others study. Because repetition is not weakness, it is mastery. Even Scripture is repeated truth. It is not 1,000 ideas. It is one law spoken again and again. Obey truth, walk in power, speak no fear, act in faith. The great book does not change its law. It repeats it until the man who reads it becomes the verse he once studied. Likewise, success is not many things. It is one thing practiced many times, one purpose spoken every day, one aim written, read and lived until it becomes identity, until the mind can no longer reject it, until the heart no longer doubts it. In my own life, I learned this law the hard way. I knew the principles, I had the philosophy, but my external world resisted. My circumstances mocked me, and I realized it was not because I lacked truth. It was because I had not yet repeated it enough to become it. I began to write my definite chief aim every morning, every night. I began to speak it aloud with emotion, not casually. I began to imagine the result daily, not once a week, but daily. And over time, slowly at first, then suddenly, the results began to obey me. Doors opened, ideas appeared, people responded, because the man I had written down was now the man who lived in my subconscious, and the world cannot deny the man who is in full agreement with himself. Now I teach you the same. You must structure your day around spiritual repetition, not once, not when you feel like it, daily, repeatedly, without excuse, without delay. In the morning, read your purpose. Before you check the world, check your aim. Before you listen to voices, listen to your command. Speak your goal aloud, not like a student, but like a king declaring law. Feel it, see it, command it, and at midday, return to it. Speak your affirmations with intensity. Say them with power. Say them until your mind matches your voice. If you are drifting, this will anchor you. If you are doubting, this will correct you. Midday repetition realigns the wheel. At night, speak truth before sleep. The subconscious does not sleep. It works through the night. If you feed it fear, it multiplies doubt. If you feed it desire wrapped in belief, it begins building while you rest. Night is your sacred moment. End it with command. You must not go to sleep repeating the problems of the day. You must not entertain defeat as your last meditation. You must end every day as a builder, not a beggar. Repeat law, repeat purpose, repeat truth. This is how empires are formed, not in fireworks, in repetition. The man who lifts the same weight daily grows stronger. The man who speaks the same aim daily grows bolder. The man who repeats his purpose until it becomes unconscious, that man becomes unstoppable. Say this now. My mind obeys what I repeat. I master success by repeating law. Say it again. My mind obeys what I repeat. I master success by repeating law. These are not pretty sayings. They are programming. Every repetition you perform rewrites the software of your being. Your thoughts are code. Your affirmations are updates. Your beliefs are installations. And your identity is the operating system that emerges. The lazy man mocks repetition. The drifting man avoids structure. The wise man embraces it. Because he knows power is found in pattern. Law is found in rhythm. Identity is forged in the furnace of daily alignment. Let me now give you your schedule. Obey it, and your life will reflect the truth you claim to believe. Upon waking, sit up, breathe deeply, speak your definite chief. Aim with full emotion. Read it, imagine it, speak it again. Midday, take 5 minutes. Close your eyes, speak your affirmations, reconnect with the vision, see it again, say it again. Before sleep, reflect, speak your aim aloud. Give thanks as if it's already done. Affirm your belief. Sleep in expectation. This structure is not a ritual of religion. It is a spiritual engineering process. You are shaping the unseen, and the unseen will always become the seen. If you follow this pattern, your energy will shift. Your confidence will rise. Your focus will sharpen, and your results will begin to reflect the law you are finally obeying. You are not a product of randomness. You are a product of repeated thought. Change the repetition, and the outcome must change. That is law. Repeat this now. My words shape my mind. My mind commands my world. My results reflect my repetition. You are no longer speaking by accident. You are no longer thinking without structure. You are now a man of rhythm. A man of daily fire, a man of law. In the beginning was the Word. Before the earth was formed, before the stars were hung, before matter had shape or name, there was the Word, spoken or unspoken, written or declared, whispered in faith or shouted in fear. The Word is always first. All creation begins in Word. All reality begins in Word. All change, all direction, all movement begins with Word. You are no different. You are not shaped by accident or fate. You are shaped by the word you obey. You are the echo of your most repeated belief. You are the result of the speech you tolerate, the thoughts you agree with, the declarations you allow. You become not what you want, not what you admire, not even what you touch. You become what you obey. Most men do not fail from lack of ability. They fail from obedience to the wrong word. They obey fear. They obey doubt. They obey limitation. They hear the whisper, "You're not ready." and they stop. They hear, "This is too much for you," and they bow. They hear, "Who are you to expect more?" And they serve that voice as if it were their master. And so they become what that voice said, not because it was true, but because they believed it, because they gave it power, because they obeyed. Every day, every hour, the average man lives in response to voices. And the voice that wins is the one he follows most consistently. What are the voices you obey? Are they voices of law or voices of emotion? Are they voices of divine command or cultural confusion? Are they voices of truth or voices of doubt? There is no neutral thought. Every word you submit to either builds your foundation or weakens your structure. Every inner conversation is a construction site. You are either laying brick or cracking the wall, and every result you see is the blueprint you obeyed in word. Let me say it plainly, you become the word you obey. If you obey truth, you rise. If you obey law, you stabilize. If you obey vision, you expand. But if you obey fear, you shrink. If you obey doubt, you drift. If you obey the past, you repeat it. The power was never outside of you. It was always in the word you believed. And let us not forget, your own word is the loudest voice in your life. What you say to yourself matters more than what others say. And what you say aloud trains your inner mind. Every sentence is either a rope lifting you higher or a chain pulling you back. This is why I have instructed you in repetition, in daily declaration, in speaking your definite chief, aim aloud, because the word repeated becomes law. And the subconscious, which governs all habit and action, obeys without resistance. It accepts your voice as the final authority. But many men use their own voice to curse themselves. They say, "I'll never figure this out." They say, "I'm tired of trying." They say, "I guess that's just how it is." And those words become walls, invisible at first, but firm enough to trap a destiny. I challenge you now. Speak only what you desire. Obey only thoughts that build. Refuse to repeat weakness. Refuse to agree with smallness. Refuse to submit to any language not aligned with truth. When you hear fear, replace it. When you hear lack, override it. When the old voices return, say aloud, "That is not my word. That is not my truth. That is not my law." Your mind must be ruled. Your heart must be governed, and your word must be royal. For the man who speaks like a king becomes one. The man who thinks like a builder builds. The man who walks in agreement with divine truth becomes the living reflection of law itself. Return now to the verse that began all things. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That is not a metaphor. That is an equation. What you think in your core, what you hold, repeat, and obey, is what you will see in your life. Your job is not to chase results. Your job is to command the thought. Your job is to discipline the word. Your job is to submit to truth until truth rewrites your identity. And when identity changes, reality follows. You cannot speak the language of fear and expect a future of strength. You cannot declare failure and expect the law to respond with abundance. You cannot serve two voices. You must decide which one owns your future. Say this now. Say it with the weight of a man who knows his next words shape his next chapter. I obey truth. I become what I command. As I think in my heart, so am I. Again, I obey truth. I become what I command. As I think in my heart, so am I. Let these become your code. Let them silence the noise. Let them override the old programming. Let them cut through every excuse, every hesitation, every illusion. This is your word. This is your mirror. This is your law. Now speak only what aligns. Think only what builds. Walk only in the direction of the voice that made you, the voice that told you, be fruitful, the voice that said, subdue the earth, the voice that spoke before time and said, it is good. That voice is still speaking, but you must choose to obey it. And once you do, once you shut out the noise, shut out the fear, shut out the false masters, You will become what was written about you before the world ever saw you. From this moment forward, you speak with intention. You think in agreement with law. You act as one who no longer takes orders from fear. You are not casual with your mind. You are not loose with your language. You are a man under command, and the command is truth. Let us now move to conclusion. For the man you are becoming is waiting, and he only responds to the voice you obey. You have now seen what few ever understand, how one verse contains the secret to every fortune ever built, every life ever elevated, every man who rose from nothing and turned the invisible into the inevitable. It was never many truths. It was always one law, one pattern, one eternal structure. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not might be, not hopes to be. His identity is not formed by accident. It is not gifted by family or shaped by society. It is chosen through thought, reinforced through repetition, and sealed through belief. This is the law behind every miracle, every success, every transformation, and it belongs to you. You are not a servant to money. You are not a beggar of opportunity. You are not a subject to the economy, to the world, to the voices of fear. You are a servant to thought. And thought, when properly commanded, commands all things, including money. The money does not lead, it follows. The opportunity does not invent itself. It appears in response to the man who has built himself according to divine thought. The world outside is nothing more than a mirror reflecting the dominant pattern inside. This truth is not a lesson to admire. It is not a quote to memorize. It is not a speech to applaud. It is a law to live, a blueprint to obey. And like all law, it does not bless those who study it casually. It only blesses those who surrender to its structure. There are many who will hear these words and nod. They will agree. They will quote the verse. They will feel stirred and then return to the language of doubt, the habits of drift, the inner dialogue of fear. And they will receive nothing, because this truth, like all truth, is activated only through action. You must not walk away with admiration. You must walk away with assignment. You must not leave here feeling inspired. You must leave here with instruction. From this moment forward, let there be no confusion in your mind about where success comes from, where wealth begins, where confidence is forged. It does not begin in banks. It does not begin in contacts. It begins in your thought, and not in casual thought, but in the heart thought, the inner belief that speaks without your permission, that acts without your awareness, that directs your life while you sleep. You must now train the heart, not just once, not just when it feels good, but daily, with discipline, with fire, with structure. You will begin with the verse, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." This is your foundation. It is not a verse. It is a key, a lens, a sword, a mirror. You will read it daily until your soul begins to repeat it in silence, until it becomes your posture, your logic, your defense. You will speak only what you desire, not what you fear, not what the news says, not what the doubters shout, but what you command, what you choose, what you build. You will never again say, "I can't." You will never again say, "That's not me." You will never again say, "I hope it happens," because these are the words of slaves, and you were never born to obey fear. You were born to obey law. You will build your identity around truth, not the truth of your past, but the truth of your purpose, the truth of your divine origin, the truth of what God has already placed within you. You will not wait for others to confirm it. You will walk in it until the world must submit. You will move without fear, not because fear disappears, but because you no longer take orders from it. You will act while afraid. You will speak while trembling. You will take the step even when the fog has not cleared, because obedience is not based on comfort. It is based on principle. You will plant with intention. You will not sow random thought. You will not scatter your attention. You will not fill your mind with the weeds of contradiction. You will plant what you want multiplied, and nothing else. Every word you speak will be a seed. Every action you take will be a watering. Every repetition will be sunlight. And every belief will be the atmosphere in which your future grows. This is how men rise. This is how fortunes are built. This is how poverty is reversed. This is how failure becomes fire. This is how small men become giants, not through inheritance, not through chance, not through luck, but through obedience to a single law. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Now I ask you, who are you becoming? Not who do you want to be? Not who do you hope to be? Who are you training yourself to be? Through the thought you allow, the belief you accept, the voice you repeat? Are you becoming the man who commands wealth or the one who chases it? Are you becoming the man who lives by law or the one who waits for permission? Are you becoming the man who speaks power or the one who recites the script of the world? You cannot serve two visions. You must now choose. From this day forward, every time you speak, you are casting votes for the man you will be. Every time you act, you are declaring who you believe yourself to be. Every hour is a courtroom, and your thoughts are the testimony. Speak only what you would be proud to become. Act only in the direction of the life you claim to want. Think only what you are willing to receive. Say this now, not quietly, not with hesitation, but as a man who means every word. I build by law. I rise by truth. As I think, so I am. As I believe, so it is. Again, I build by law. I rise by truth. As I think, so I am. As I believe, so it is. Let these words become your covenant. Let them mark the death of smallness. Let them declare the end of fear. Let them be your voice when doubt comes knocking. Let them be the rod that strikes down every inferior thought that ever told you to play small. You are now the guardian of your gate, the builder of your temple, the voice in your storm, the architect of your wealth. You are no longer begging for change. You are commanding it. Do not wait. Do not drift. Do not wonder what's next. You already know. The verse has spoken. The law has been given, and the voice of power is waiting for your agreement. You are now a man of thought, a man of heart, a man of divine identity. And as you think in your heart, so are you. Now begin.